moments ago. So we are recording. We do have everything that's locked in and ready to go. I appreciate you guys being on here this morning. I did drop the schedule in for next week. So we will have an opportunity to go over that. We have a watch list in depth today. I also will post a PDF later on with the information as well too, making sure you guys are good. So every single watch list will come with a PDF plus the recording from now on, just to make sure that's known. So you'll have a multitude of ways to make sure that you have the information on hand, right? So I woke up this morning 6 a.m. I know many of you guys got up here early as well. So I appreciate, like I said, you guys being in the building promptly on time. And let me go ahead and make sure that I share my screen. So we should be good to go, right? So my screen is sharing. Everyone should be able to see me and they should be able to see the screen nice and clear. So first thing we're going to start off with today, we're going to just briefly go over this, right? This is just for attendance and accountability, right? Because, we're going to set the 50 rule. We have a 50 rule in trading when it comes to taking profit, but we're also going to set a 50% rule here. This is just for your attendance, right? And the reason why you haven't really heard from me in the past 3 days, once again, not because I wasn't able to teach or anything like that, but I wanted to just sit back with a few things and I wanted to kind of run through some stuff. One of the things that I realized is the people that come to class, the people that's watching the recordings is very prevalent. You can see who's here and who's not here, right? And even if you're not present in class when it's actually happening, watching the recording is just as much as importance, right? So this 50% falls underneath you attending live classes and as well watching the recordings. Right now, there's some people in different time zones. So we understand some people will probably, never really be able to make the live classes as much as maybe they possibly can. But given the opportunity, they will show up. I want to give a special shout out to the West Coast people, right? Um, this is what I'll say, right? The West Coast people, no matter what, for the most part, you're going to find that West Coast people show up to class anytime they need to be, right? Anytime they need to be, they show up for class. It's 5:30 in the morning right now. It's West Coast people that's in the building. They made no excuse. Also, we have UK people, right? So people who are 5, 6 hours ahead in Europe, right? They're showing up at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning for class if we're having an evening class. They don't make an excuse about it, nothing about it. They just show up for class. One thing that I definitely want to make sure that is known, right, is this no blame policy. Because this is what happens, right? The people that don't show up, it's very easy to point the finger at me, right? And this is what happened. I'm just telling you, right? And some of you guys have experienced as well. If you're not showing up for class and you don't know what's going on, you can't come and say it was my fault. Not when every single week I'm live, I'm teaching, I'm breaking things down and answering questions. So if you weren't here, that's a different story, right? You have the recordings, which are able for you to go back and play back. But this 50% rule, you got to show up for class. A lot of people don't show up for class, but then go online and say it's L's fault, or he didn't teach this, or it's his fault. If you have something, which you'll see, we'll get into that in a second. Why is attendance going to matter? You miss class, you're missing the real-time explanations, market context, you're missing your live Q&A chance, and you're missing the repetition of the key concepts. If you notice certain things that's happening in the market right now, we talked about it 6, 7, 8 months ago. But that means that we talked about it 6, 7, 8 months ago worth of watch lists, worth of class that you have missed. I've spoken to people that haven't been to class in 6 to 12 months, but it's L's fault. But you ain't came to class in 6 to 12 months. That's not on me. Recordings and guides. Not only are we providing you with the recorded classes, most classes, and we'll make sure, right, that more of them, right? So this is where I'll take some accountability, right? Because I'm not above that. Right. Maybe there should be some guides with more classes, right? That go with more of the classes. So I took the liberty to say, you know what? I should probably be providing more of the guides to go with the classes, right? So I could listen to that to myself. I sat back with that and say, you know what things could I do more for people to maximize and get more out of the program, right? So the guides and the resources that are provided, if you're not watching the replays, trust me, I see it. The top people that's watching the replays, Cleve, Mandy, right? Remar, those names sound familiar, right? Javon Powell, right? Those names sound familiar. Those are the people who won Student of the Month, right? So the top people that's attending classes, that's showing up, Miss D. Smith, she's showing up, right? May have not won Student of the Month, but she's the first person on the Zoom, first person in the chat, right? So watching the replays, reading the guys, reviewing the posted materials. Once again, you gotta, if you're not doing those things, you're not holding up your side of the bargain. Direct access / reteaching. Let's talk about this. Everyone has this direct number. I don't think I've ever been shy about it. So that's the number you can reach me at, right? I have 2 separate phones. That's the number you can directly reach me at. If you got questions, comments, concerns, that's never to put on online forum. You got a question, comment, concern, you come directly to me. You got questions, comments, concerns. Once again, now let me break this down. This does not mean bombard me with questions that we've already covered in class now. What this does mean is clarifying something that you attended and asking targeted questions after doing your part. So that I want to make that very clear. If you haven't done your part, please don't reach out to me. Because if you're asking questions that we've already covered in class, for example, if someone's going to ask me about NVO, I'm just using this as a good example. I know you haven't came to class. You need to go back and watch classes, because if you're a bit confused about NVO, which has probably been one of the top 5 tickers discussed here on these classes the past 6 months, it's no way you could have been in class. So don't bombard me with questions that we've already covered in class. But this does mean clarifying something that you need, right? You probably attended a class and you need just maybe some extra clarification, right? This means asking targeted questions after doing your part, right? So we do our best to make sure we get back. So if there's questions you have right now, I'm going to say this. Get your questions in while we're on this Zoom. Now, I'm not going to answer, obviously, while we're on this Zoom, but put your questions right there right now so I can go and boom, say, all right, this is like, for example, shout out to my good friend, Brian. He just sent me a message. Me and him, we're going to get together, right? I see it. Miss Carmen Patton, I see it, right? So I can see it, right? But don't also wait until the last minute when something goes wrong to hit me up either. Oh, this went wrong. And, don't wait until something that you know's already been wrong and you haven't reached out. Don't wait until the last second to do it either. You know what I mean? Once again, make sure you're asking the right questions. Self-accountability standard. If I'm going to show up consistently, if the classes are being taught, if the material is being recorded and shared, you must show up on a consistent basis. Either that's going to be through obviously coming live or catching up on the recordings at your own time. You know what I mean? Because this program is going to work when the effort is mutual. It's just the reality. When your attendance, engagement, and your personal responsibility, these are things that are non-negotiable. So when you actually step up to the helm and you take these things on, everything else adds up. So this is why attendance matters. Attendance and accountability guideline. Listen, the no blame policy, I'm serious about that thing, because it'll be people, I'm here every week teaching, and we know that, right? Every single week I'm teaching. And we had these recordings, abundance of recordings, multiple recording tabs, abundance of recordings, pop-up sessions, to recordings, to beginner classes. We have an abundance of recordings right here that you could catch up on. If you missed it, you truly just missed it. But you have an abundance of things that you can catch up on here. An abundance, weekly watch list, same spot, 111 right there. You know what I'm saying? 2026 stock and options playbook. If you missed that class, that recording is there with the PDF. If you missed the 2026 preview classes, we got the recordings right here for you, the 3 classes that was recorded right there for you. So utilize your resources. I cannot stress that enough. You know what I'm saying? We have been here nonstop every single week. So, you know, accountability. So questions from anybody. Any questions before I get started? Mills, I actually see your question right here. When you state buyers are stepping in on a ticker, is there a volume spike or is that a pattern through price rejection? Right. So usually, great question. Usually when I see buyers stepping in at support, that's at a key intraday low. Right. So if you hear me say buyers are stepping in on this ticker, that means buyers are stepping in at a key support level during the intraday, during the regular daily session. Good question right there. Any questions before we carry on? Any questions before we get into the watch list? No problem. We'll give everybody a second to maybe type in that question. I know it might not be quick. We'll give everybody an opportunity to type in your questions real quick. Questions. So looks like a wick, then a candle closes. So to follow up on this question, looks like a wick, then a candle closes above. I assume so. Correct. So wick step in, buyer step in, of course, and it'll show a wick. Correct. I've been looking at serve 3-month chart. There's a bull flag. All right. If that's the last question, that's a ticker question. I don't have a problem with that, but we'll move on to the watch list. So everybody's ready for the week. So let's get ticker serve. 1 second. I think that's Joe that asked that question as well, too. Shout out to Joe being here. We'll get Joe's question on this ticker, but after that, we'll be moving forward. So let's go to the weekly time frame first. So if you're looking at serve right now, actually, you know what? Let me go down to the daily. Correct, Joe. You are right. It does have a bull flag pattern. So you are 100% correct. Looks like a break over 16 is what'll do it. So a break over $16 a share, that'll do it, bro. So break over 16. Yep. Oh, iPhone. Okay, that's iPhone 4. But I saw that also. Okay, that was clear. Okay. And for everyone that's on here, if you can change your name. So if you have an iPhone or iPad, right? So we have some iPhones and iPads. Last thing I'll say, just change your name underneath your settings so we know who you are. All right. Just do that for me. Change your name underneath your settings so we can know exactly who you are. So when I take roll, you're not excluded, right, from that roll call. Just want to make sure. So, yep. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get into this watch list. First ticker that I want you guys to pull up this week, I want you to actually pull up TGT, and that's Target. So Target Corp. So if you look at Target in the past couple of weeks, past 2 weeks here on TGT, right? So you go back to Monday, January 12th, right? And you look in the, past week, and then you go also as well back to Friday, January 2nd. Target's up about $15 since then, right? Now, if you also simultaneously, I want you to bring together, like we've been saying over the past few weeks, Dollar General Corp, you'll also see particularly some things similar, right? You go back to in December of 2022. And as well, when you are looking at, just go to the monthly time frame just so I can show you clear as day. Right. So the same track, this is where we started to see as well, right? Dollar General and as well Target pull back down. Funny enough, both tickers had all-time highs in the 260s. Obviously, DG has recovered more. If you're looking at Dollar General, the next leg up is looking above this 160 level and breaking out. If you're looking here on a monthly time frame, you're starting to see a lot of buyers come in here on TGT. So we got to close above 110.82 last week. So that was a good thing, right? So for ticker Target, you're now looking at 118 and change, right? So we are going to see, and Mr. Dwayne, I got your text message. I'll cover that here in a second. Appreciate that. So when you are looking at TGT, right? You're looking at now 114.68. And then after that, you're looking at a move all the way up here to 118.77. So we do have, once again, momentum is on the right side right now for Target. I know obviously we know what's taking place here with TGT over the past few months. Hasn't obviously been well. Target's obviously been coming here consistently to the downside. But next, if you look, actually past couple of years, but now Target double bottom here at 83. Stock is up there. So you're looking at now next to move up there to about 118. All right. So 118 on TGT. So take a look there. Wanted to kick that off. Next thing I want to talk about is our indices. I want to start with our QQQ and work our way around. So as you can see here on the Qs, still no break above 626. So everyone should have this now. The longer that we stay below 626, the more that it will bring potentially the pressure to the downside. For those that paid attention to my IG last night, I want to bring up particularly Apple, which if you go to ETF.com and you're looking at particularly Apple, this is the monthly. Let me take it down here to the daily. You got to be watching Apple here on the downside below 250 and then 244. So, of course, if you look at ETF.com, what's the top ticker within the QQQ, right? One of some of the top tickers, right? You got Apple as well as NVIDIA right there, 1 and 2. Microsoft is right there at 3. So if you're looking here, Apple is kind of showing us that there's a bit of weakness right here at this time. We tried to get above and break out towards 290. We rejected there. Right. So we're sitting here right now, no clear break over 626, right? We've had a couple weeks to try to do that, basically since December, about a month and a half, and still no clean break over 626. Every time the S&P 500 has made its all-time high. SPY is currently at 691, but you still have not actually been able to see Apple actually break out, which I personally believe Apple's going to come down to about 250 a share and then 244. If that is to happen, right? Obviously things could change. If we get back above 260, I think we'll slide upwards and you'll probably see as well QQQ turn around. But you're looking at maybe going back to 608 to 613 on the QQQ. Now, obviously another name to pay attention to is what? NVIDIA. What's the kill zone level for NVIDIA? We're going to see who's been paying attention. All right. What's the kill zone level for NVIDIA? Thank you. Right here. Can't make it up. Mandy, Fozzie, Remar, the names that I mentioned, Cleve, right there, 164. Execution, love, speed, right? So that's the kill zone. What do we mean by the kill zone? What I told people on previous zones is if we break underneath this 164 right here, that is the point where I turn bearish on NVIDIA for the year. Obviously, we're distance away from that for now. But if we get underneath $164, you're then looking, I personally believe NVIDIA would come down to 140. So right now, like we said, it's been trading in this range bound fashion. So we actually have not seen NVDA actually be able to maintain above 190 and 195. So it's been trading pretty range bound here. So once we break underneath this 164, that's where I would turn bearish, right? So I just wanted to make that note for everybody here. 164, once again, is the kill zone level for NVIDIA. If NVIDIA is to start dropping, it's underneath that level. So until then, what should we really be paying attention to and looking for? Well, we got to watch NVIDIA get above this 191. As you can see, there's been a whole lot of sellers right here taking it down since the top of the year and the end of last year, right? So you haven't seen anything substantial be able to actually hold. We haven't actually been able to hold at these levels yet. So 195 is the level that you want to actually pay attention to, right? So 195, if you can see a break there, right? We get a break above 195 and push us back over there to 203. So those are my thoughts essentially there at this time on NVIDIA. And what I just, wanted to make note of looking at that. At the same time, we do have other names in the semiconductor space that face a similar dilemma. Of course, AMD, which has been in the same range since November 18th, is back up here at the top of the range. It tried a couple of times to actually get above and was unsuccessful in doing so, right? We tried to actually get above 235 last week. It's at the top of this range. You can see we rallied. All we did was drop just to come right back up. So if you notice, that's the same pattern we've seen with a lot of stocks, right? We've been rallying just to come back, come back up. Push to the downside, rally back up. Push to the downside, rally back up. Same thing that's happened with AVGO. A couple of notes that I want to make on particularly SMCI, which we actually had a nice bounce here at $27 right here, as you can see at my support. So when they were talking about, I believe it was Mills asked about a question, notice how the buyer stepped in and wicked right off here off the support, making sure that you have your extended hours on. I find it that a lot of people don't. So you definitely need to make sure that you have your extended hours on. If you don't, you're going to miss this, right? You're going to miss these pre-market drops or post-market drops that you could be missing and seeing. So SMCI did bounce at this support level here on a weekly. You can even see it better, right? Bounce right there at this time. So definitely is important for you to watch SMCI. Of course, we did have one of our 5-star tickers from last year, SMCI. We covered them, but now NVMI. A lot of questions on NVMI. Obviously, their successes happen really fast. So when you are looking at NVMI, a lot of people ask me, hey, what are my thoughts on NVMI relatively running so quick? Are they a bit ahead of where they should be? And yes, currently at a 57 PDE, $7.71 EPS, ticker Nova, which was one of our top stocks picks from last year, which turned out to do obviously very well, as you can see. Nova has went from March here at $150, which was our recommended buy-in, is now up here to $445. So you think about that, this stock has went up and pretty much gave us a 3x in less than a year. So you guys already know how I feel about that. If you are in NVMI, I think it'd be foolish for you not to take some profits at these levels. The long-term price targets were $400 to $600 range. We're already at $450. So just let that sink in for a second. Just my thoughts on that. Next one, you have ASML Holdings. All right. Hold on one second. Yeah. All right. So ASML, we actually just broke out, and past 2 weeks have been absolutely amazing for ASML. All-time high of now almost $1,400 a share. When it comes to even MU, right? MU at ASML, I'll say this here on a Zoom now, it's very likely that ASML actually goes and breaks out to $1,800 to $2,000 a share. If you remember ASMG, which I do have a lot of ASMG holders in here, if you are an ASMG, and this is just a good practice for something that you could do. If there's something that you missed in the Discord, so let's say, for example, you wanted to see if there was anything pertaining to ASMG that you might have missed, right? Or particularly any ticker, right? That maybe I said something about that you wanted to know about, right? You could come back here and can see. All right. You can come back here and see the results, and you can filter out what you want to see or what you don't want to see, particularly what dates, etc. You could do that. All right. So ASMG obviously was launched. So if you missed anything on ASMG, and this is just an example of the things that I highlighted. All right. If you look at the date and the timestamp, 4/3, April 3rd, 2025. All right. Once again, these 2x lever plays, SOXL, AMDL, AVGX, NVDL, TSMG, ASMG, TSLL. All of them are up from that date right there, April 3rd. So we recommended these right there. All right. So right here, ASMG. All right. Give it, and then we double down on it. All right. So, and this isn't, and this is why paying attention is important. And this isn't to call out Robbie because Robbie's a good student, but this is why being inside classes, and this is why asking the right questions as well. Right. When he asked, boom, ASML, ASMG, is that to grab once again individual shares. These are the things, if we're highlighting once again, these are your plays. So you got to ask the right questions to get the right information. And a lot of stuff is right in front of you because we're going over these things over and over again. Just like we went over UNH and we're going to go over NVO. A lot of questions are coming in about these names. But this is why I say patience will pay you. When you sit back and you think about it, what were the levels that I said? It was right there. ASM, right? $10 to $12, that's best entry. What was the target levels to buy? ASMG. This was the beginning of the year. $9.29, $10.12, $11.55. What is it showing you? And that was in January of that year of 2025. What are these levels? All of them hit. And then in July, you got down here to $10, $12. Once again, when it's coming down, right there, 10 to 12, right there, your best entries. Where's ASMG now? $35 a share. So when people ask me, should you be buying ASMG? No, you shouldn't be buying ASMG. You should be selling a 2x levered ETF. You never buy a 2x levered ETF at an all-time high. You just don't do it. You don't buy a SOXL, which is 3x, right? You don't buy an ASMG, you don't buy a TSMG, you don't buy none of those at all-time highs, right? That's just not something that would be smart and feasible for you to actually do. It would not make any sense at all for you to be putting your bread at risk on such a high-risk asset like that, all right? So just my initial thoughts for people that's here in the building today with me. Like I said, I want to make sure that you guys are getting the best value as much as possible. All right. Next thing I want to cover, because this is what I get a lot of questions about, is NVOX. Now it's back at basically $3.20, which is equivalent because they did a 10x split, right? So at NVOX now, when it goes up, basically almost 100% from its low, all right, at its low point, which was $1.60, which is equivalent to $16, it's at 32. As it was drawing down, all right, and this is just how you can, once again, come into class, combination of come into class, all right? There we go. Right? Combination. I just want to show this right here. All right. So NVOX, you got 61 results. Ellie has been talking about NVOX. That's right there. RJ, shout out to our good friend RJ Trades. All right. You can go back and see. Shout out to Remar. All right. Picked it up there. So you can see everything. That's right here. Should be adding NVOX. Shout out to Daniel, West Coast Cat. Appreciate you. Sorry for the 49ers, my brother. Got their butt whooped, but NVOX will make you feel a little better. Right? Darrell Peters as LE, right? Mentioned NVOX. Miss Angie, who's an executor, bought 4,000 of NVOX. That was September, right? So there you go. All the information when we highlight as far as NVOX, we're talking about it on class. The people that's pulling the trigger, it's right here. So now when NVO comes back to $62 and someone asks me, should they buy NVOX? The answer to that is no. Now let's go even more. This is how we know the 2026 stock and options playbook. All right. You can download that. It's right there for you here. 2026 stock and options playbook. Boom. All right. You'll see as well here. Where we at? There we go. Number 11. It's right here. Strategy shares and 2x lever ETF. NBO. 2026 price target $70 to $75. Bingo. So, like, once again, reviewing the information to stay abreast to things is going to help you in the long run as well. Right. So now we're looking here at NBO, which is breaking out of this longward downward channel. It's been in since September 2024. Is NVOX a buy? No, because you would be putting up way too much risk trying to get exposed into NVOX at this point. It's a 2x levered ETF. The time to buy NVOX was when NVO was in the 40 range. And we kept highlighting, hey, as it's coming down, you know, hey, pick up you some NVOX. We kept saying those things over and over and over again because we want you to take advantage when things do drop. All right. So as far as NVO, that is my suggestion there at this time. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about Snowflake. I want to talk about SNOW. Let's talk about Snow. So we covered that. Just put my QQQ up over here, and we're going to go solo screen real quick. There we go. So a couple things here on a couple things here on Snowflake, not NVO, right? Underneath this 205, particularly I'm looking at us coming down to 202 and then down to 194. So I am a bit bearish, right, on Snowflake. Now, Snow doesn't report earnings for a little bit of time. Not just Snow am I bearish on, I'm also bearish on as well Zscaler, right? So ticker ZS, which has been coming down. If you look at ticker ZS, right, and I appreciate that, Big Mike. If you look at ticker ZS, we have been selling off since January 8th. Now, and obviously even before that, if you go back to November 12th, we're down from 333 all the way here to 213. But its most recent sell-off since January right here, 8th, underneath this 209, buyers have been stepping in at those levels. We can probably see a pullback there down a little bit more. So I am looking for us to sell off, particularly on ZS, because I'm a bit bearish on cloud computing stocks and cybersecurity. One cloud name as well, Salesforce, which is now down here to the bottom of this trend. So CRM, I want you guys to put a couple alerts for yourselves. I want you to put one for 225, which is right there. But underneath that 225, I'm looking at Salesforce coming back down to about 209, right? So I have an alert as well for 209. I think Salesforce, if we can break underneath the bottom of this trend, it's likely that we pull back down there to 209. And that coincides if I'm watching Snowflake, I should as well be watching what? MSFT. I've only highlighted what? Microsoft has been range bound since November, 18th. Now, last week, Microsoft started to trickle down. We're going to likely pull back on Microsoft once we can get below this 456. On MSFT, I would not be surprised to see Microsoft come back down in the 440 ranges, right? So you do want to watch that. MSFT coming back down in the 440 ranges. Do not be surprised if you see MSFT, pull back down into the 440 ranges. Do not be surprised at all. Microsoft has been slipping. Obviously, earnings are right here at the end of the month for them. So do keep that in mind, Wednesday, January 28th. But cloud computing stocks and cybersecurity names do look a bit weak. All right. So you also have CrowdStrike, which is back here at 453. Quick test question real quick. What's the level that someone wants to buy CrowdStrike long term? What's the level? What's the level? And Remar was already ahead of me. Thank you for that, sir. Right? What's the level you want to get CrowdStrike at? Thank you for that, bro. What's the level you want to get Crowd at, great people? Can't recall. but get in at 20 to 30% pullbacks. Mandy's right on that. My good brother, Mr. Francois, is right as well. 400 and lower. Right there. There we go. 350. The people that said 350 to 4, right there. These two brothers right here. 100%. That's where you want to get it. Right there between 350. And once again, Mandy was right, because usually anywhere in between 20 to 30% pullbacks is where you want to get CrowdStrike at. Now, what's our long-term price target, great people, on CrowdStrike? What's our long-term price target? $1,000. Thank you for that, Mr. Francois. Paul, Cleve, Miss King. Yep. All the people, 1K exactly. There we go. There we go. So that's our long-term price target. But if we're doing the math and we say 566 and we times that by 30%, right? That's $169. So realistically, the 30% drop lies basically at $400 a share. So once again, CrowdStrike is a good name when you are getting these 20 to 30% pullbacks. That's usually where price becomes pretty attractive, right? We've seen that over the past few years where CrowdStrike will have a pullback, come down, pull back here from 400 back to 200. Obviously, that was more self-inflicted. From 460 all the way here to 290, about 297. Same thing here, pull back there. You're getting another pull back here. So if we can get 350 on Crowd, which Crowd will have earnings as well, which are coming March 10th, right? So obviously still a little bit of ways away. We'll see what's going to happen, right? We'll definitely see what's definitely going to happen. So I'm looking at CrowdStrike, ZS, Snowflake, Microsoft, all looking like there. Microsoft looks like it's going to pull down into the 440s, right? From what I can see, let's go back to the first ticker that we highlighted, right? MSFT in this specific space. Microsoft is looking like we're about to actually pull back down here to this 440 range. So be on the lookout. We traded here on the side-by-side ways, and we finally broke underneath this here last week, right? So are looking to, like I said, we are looking a bit bearish in that regard. So just my initial thoughts at this time, particularly here with this name. All right. So we are looking a bit bearish. Bearish to the downside on MSFT. And as well, we talked about Apple. Apple is looking like, once again, let's reiterate this real quick. So if you got Apple and Microsoft, both, right? Both these tickers, Apple and Microsoft, both look like they want to pull down, right? Here on this weekly, it's losing a bit of steam, right? So you got 250 and 244. Really watch Apple on that downside. I am definitely, and I'll cover now here in a second. I'll cover now. I got you. Very bearish on the downside on Apple, right? So coming down here below 250, it's going to go to about this 247. I would not be surprised to see Apple come down more, right? Not going to say they're going to come down here to 220 or nothing like that. But I will highlight that Apple is looking a bit bearish here, as well as Microsoft. Now, in that, let me show you as well. And I'm going to get now after this. I appreciate that question, EJ. But I want to cover Meta. This was the next thing on my list, right? So if you're looking at Meta platforms, once again, Meta, we was waiting to see if, hey, could this thing get over this 674? And never was able to. So now Meta, we're looking at coming down here back to about $600 a share. So Meta even has some weaknesses here where I'm saying, even Meta doesn't have enough juice to get going. So even they're struggling and slipping. So last week, Meta started dropping to the downside. Do not be surprised if you see Meta sub 600. So I'm just warning people about this now. Do not be surprised if you see Meta sub $600 a share, great people. So just want to make that warning shot to you guys, so you guys know what's happening and what's going on. So you know you're in the know. All right. So do not be surprised if Meta goes sub 600 again and sells off to the downside. Next ticker is going to be now, and then I have a following ticker that I want to cover. We're going to go over to the ARK ETF. So service now, and I appreciate all the questions I've got on now. I also want to pull up now L. You guys know I always talk to you guys about the 2X levered ETFs. Shout out to T-Cave, because T-Cave was the one who helped me find that we had a now L in the first place. So once again, I'm not forgetting nothing. Shout out to T-Cave. Hold on. Let me see if T-Cave's in the building. Nah, T Cave ain't here today. It's probably with his family. Shout out to T Cave though. If you're gonna watch it, you'll hear T Cave will watch this, so he'll hear it. Shout out to T Cave though. Right. So when you are able to see once again, now L, which has done a split recently, right? So they did do a split. If you remember a few months back, I highlighted that now would service now would come down. This was back in the summer and as well early fall. So if we're looking at now, I want to go to the fundamentals. I would personally still not touch now yet. I still believe we could come down another 50. And you're right. You heard me say it right. Another 50. So service now 70, what's that level? Which would be equivalent, yeah, about $70, right? That's the price that I want to get now at. Any higher payment than that is, yeah, not even worth it. Now L, I wouldn't touch now L until we got sub $5. So realistically, I want $70 right here down there at that for service now. My personal opinion is I think that their valuation is way too stretched too far compared to what they earn, which is why you've seen them drop as much as they have, only earning $1.66 EPS. They do have a forward PE of 30. So earnings are expected to grow. My personal opinion, though, is if you're not getting this name less than 100, you're probably overpaying for this name. So they're promising future earnings growth, but my opinion is don't pay anything higher than $100 for this name. That's just my personal opinion. Anything higher than $100 would be an incredible overpay for this ticker. So I would not step into this name above 100. That's my personal opinion on this matter. And now L, do not pay anything more than $5. So you really want still another 50% drop before now L even becomes a little bit of attractive. So do not buy now L here at these levels. Steer clear of it. So, yep. Great question on Meta. Let me see that real quick. So, METU, what's the best price for METU? Let me turn the question around. What's the best price? Currently at 28. What's the best price on METU? What's the best price on it? Yep. $20. I'm looking for a 15 too. 15 to $20. Right? Queen right there. Thank you, David. 15 to 20 right there. So 15 to 20 is your sweet spot, right? That's your sweet spot for METU. Like we originally said, when we got exposed to it at about 25, we was willing to take a small shot. Obviously, METU looks like it's going to pull down. In my opinion, obviously, if Meta comes back now, METU will come back down as well. But 15 to 20, that's your sweet spot. I don't see I don't really see Meta going below 500 for very long, just because of what they currently earn. So, push come to shove, the worst happens, right? Sometimes the worst can happen. If the worst is to happen, I think it's incredibly hard for me to be able to see, Meta obviously coming down that far, right? So that's just my initial thoughts on METU, right? So everyone should be good in that regard, right? METU. So you got Meta, you as well have Microsoft, and then of course you do as well, particularly have Apple, which are all showing you signs of weakness, right? But let's talk about the ARK ETF and some of their tickers. The ticker I wanted to next go to is HOOD. Now, for those that have been on the Zooms for the past couple of weeks and few months, what's the price that you want to get Robinhood at? We're going to see. Boom. Before I can even finish the question, Mr. Francois, Mr. Hawthorne, these are two people that are on every single Zoom. So before I could even finish the question, the answer was in the chat. $70. Thank you, brothers. Thank you. So $70, right, is where you want to buy Robinhood. Now, I wanted to cover this because a couple weeks ago, we took some puts, right, particularly here. So we're holding questions for now, guys. We will get to some of your ticker questions. Hold on to those for us. We got you. When you are looking here at HOOD, right, now that's next is $100. Now, the reason why, obviously, I have the ARK ETF, the ARK has actually been able to stay pretty upright. Obviously, a lot of that's due to Palantir as well as Roku. Tesla is still kind of trying to figure itself out up here. It's currently at 437. There's a chance that obviously Tesla could pull back down as well. Robinhood, $70 is your sweet spot to pay for this business, right? It's not a perfect price, but I don't think you'll get a perfect price on Robinhood just unless if you look at the valuation, you got a 45 P to E. So if you take 70 and divide that, I want you to take 70 in your calculator and divide that by $2.40. Divide it by that number. That should put you at a 29 P to E. So that would be a perfect price, right? A 29 P to E is pretty much right there at 30. So if you take 70 and you divide that by what the company's earned in the past 12 months, you're really looking at a really great price there. You know, ideally, I would say 50 would be the no-brainer level. You would buy it without a question. You would just put your bread up and you would just allow it to actually go ahead and play out. So those particularly are my thoughts when I am looking here at this name at this time. So I just wanted to make this note for you guys on Robinhood. I am keeping my tabs peeled on it. So ticker HOOD, $70 is that's your buy-in price. So obviously not really a trade setup per se, but just an update on it long-term wise. So wanted to make note on that. Next thing I wanted to cover is going to be, there we go, ticker PLTR, right? Palantir, which currently right now is at about $170.96. If PLTR gets below, right? If we're actually able to see PLTR get below this 161, you're looking at it's coming down to 148 again. So now on ticker Palantir, if we are able to see, right, a move here below this 161, you can draw all the way down to 148. So Palantir is definitely going to be one to watch, obviously in the ARK ETF. Palantir will report earnings as well here in just a few more, right here on Monday, February 2nd. So just another couple weeks, and you're going to hear exactly from Palantir, ticker PLTR. All right, so keep your eyes peeled there. Any more of a pullback, it'll lead us down there to 161 and then 148. So this is another one that's been trading sideways. No real clear direction over the past few months other than pops and drops. Obviously, Tesla's next. So Tesla obviously has earnings here on Wednesday, the 28th, right? So 2 weeks away. Tesla underneath $400 a share, you're going to draw down to about 383. So I've said this before, right? Unless we're getting above 500, Tesla's not going to be able to sustain. Or if we get below this 383, price is going to come downward. So on Tesla, I'm kind of just stuck in the middle, right? It's really just more so whichever direction breaks first is where Tesla is going to go. So if Tesla comes back down to that 383, you can see obviously price start to flush downward more. All right. So if momentum is going to, which momentum is what drives Tesla, momentum will play the biggest and keyest role. So just my thoughts on that. NFLX, which has earnings this week. A lot of people have had questions. I feel like we've covered so much of Netflix that it's really probably not really many questions left to really be answered, right? So if you're looking at Netflix, you go to this monthly time frame, just to show you, I mean, this is the move that, just to put this into perspective real quick, since June of 2022, I want you to just, see that, for what it is. June of 2022, this is the pretty much the outlook of what you end up seeing, particularly here with Tesla, right? Tesla has been obviously Netflix has obviously been running here to this upside all the way to a price of basically almost hitting $1,400 a share. They were just a little bit shy of that. So now we have it to where this name, right, has obviously came here to the downside. And a lot of people have questioned and wondered, okay, what are your thoughts on Netflix as far as buying into the name at this time, right? That's where a lot of the questions have came in. My thoughts, particularly here on buying Netflix at this time, is I still want lower. This level 55 from May of 2024 sticks out. I'm not saying it's coming down to no $20 or $30 again, which would be equivalent to $200, $300. But I still like If we can get underneath 82, which I think that's why I'm excited for Netflix this week, is because any sell-off that happens in a stock and brings us below 82, I think you start to see a slip towards, I don't know if we'll get 55, but I'm very confident that we can get 65 to 70, right? Back here when the price was at 115, 120, I kept telling people we would be down to these levels, right? I kept telling people we would come down to these levels. I kept highlighting it, kept saying it over and over again. I was like, guys, we're going to come down to these levels. There's people saying, what is he talking about? He doesn't know Netflix won't go down to 80 something dollars. Here we are now. So I'm going to say this here now. When you are looking at Netflix, it's about price you pay. And if you bought Netflix tomorrow, right? Because some people are asking me about putting leaps on Netflix. It's not a bad price to pay. Don't get it twisted. 36 price to earnings, $2.39 EPS. This isn't a horrible price to pay. I just want to make that clear. I just believe you're going to get better. And that's just always been my thoughts, is that we could see at least a 50% drop from the high on Netflix. So I still think it's good to actually go ahead and wait on NFLX. And one strategy that you could implement if you are in a cash position is to do some cash secured puts on Netflix for maybe the $70 or $80 strikes. If 80 is your price and you say, hey, L, I'm not even going to wait for 55 or 65, but I'm willing to take a shot at 80. If 80 is your level, sell a cash secured put there. At least get assigned those shares and get paid a little bit of bread for it, right? That's really my prerogative and my thoughts. Really paying attention and locking in here, at those levels. So that's what you want to actually go ahead and do, here on NFLX. All right. Next thing I want to actually go over is MSTR and just provide really some context updates, MSTR, and as well Coinbase. Let me pull up Coin on this side. Right. So Coin is right here at about 240. As you can see, Bitcoin is kind of stabilized. We've as well, I'll pull up Bitcoin here in a second. We haven't seen Bitcoin get below 80K. A lot of people have asked for, my updates pretty much within this nature, particularly here with BTC. My updates are pretty much this, right? Like when you are looking at Bitcoin, unless we get below that 80K, it's going to, MicroStrategy and Coinbase can probably hold up pretty decently well. But MicroStrategy is not out this woodworks yet. The stock prices to get is 120, 140 for Coinbase, and then as well in between 75 to 110 for MicroStrategy. Those are your best price scenarios on both of these tickers. Anything over that, just basically with the chart setup, you're leaving yourself susceptible because Bitcoin is already a leveraged instrument itself, right? In a high risk instrument. And you're combining it with leverage in itself with MicroStrategy as well as Coinbase, right? So even though these are not necessarily leverage ETFs, they do have leverage ETFs, but these businesses are already businesses based upon leverage, right? So you do have to factor and keep those things in mind. So those are just my thoughts with Coin and MicroStrategy. Once again, just to highlight some of the things over that we've already discussed. Next thing I want to talk about is Kava and CMG. Kava boys got to eat, they said, right? So Kava, you guys know, big fan of Kava. CMG obviously has, and I didn't realize I didn't even have CMG charted on this side, so I'll switch over. But when you can actually see here on Kava, right? Kava is actually heading towards that $80, right? So Kava has been one of our 5-star breakout plays here in the beginning part of the year. So Kava is getting ready to head up to $80, right? CMG, let me pull them up so you can see their recovery as well too. Chipotle, there we go. Chipotle recovered all the way here in November. It's been on the up and up. Look for Chipotle back over 44 to take a move to 47. So Chipotle and Kava, which I obviously had rough years towards the back half of last year, particularly Kava had a rough year. Once again, it's about the price that you pay. And remember, we've recommended this as a buy in the 40s and 50s. So as it's trickling back up, don't forget that if you are in some of these options or you're in a position, watch the valuation, listen to the next earnings call, which will be here on Tuesday, March 3rd. to figure out exactly what you want to do next with Kava. All right. Valuation looks healthy though. Just my thoughts on Kava. Next one, ticker starts with a C, but it ends with a T, and it's Costco. Costco. This is where you talk about macro level breakouts, right? So if you're looking on cost, I recommended this the past couple weeks, right? Costco already here at 963. Macro breakout of a what? A falling wedge here on the weekly time frame. So you can see that falling wedge pattern on the weekly. All right. So Costco falling wedge here on the weekly time frame pattern. All right. So price obviously moved down in the past since June. It's breaking out. Costco looks like it's trying to take a move back over to to $1,000, over $1,000 a share. Right. So over 1,000. Right. You looking back on Costco, got a macro level breakout here. So we're looking actually pretty good on ticker COST. So COST, Costco. Next one is TTD, the trade desk. Let's talk about it. So the trade desk is currently here heading towards about $32. So a lot of people have asked me my thoughts on TTD. Is it still worth the buy? Ideally, I would say I do think that price is going to go down to 29 to 32, but I do think it is a good buy for a minimal amount of exposure. Once again, this is not a ticker that you should be dumping excess amount of money into, but I do think that it is one that if you want a little bit of exposure into, it's not a bad name to have some exposure, especially at this valuation. All right. So just a reiteration off of things that I've highlighted before on TTD. All right. So this ticker has came up in questions in the recent weeks. So you're covering that. I seen a question as far as OKLO, which OKLO is probably one of the more faster mover on the market because of its short covering and short interest, right? So if you're looking at OKLO, this one's a little tricky, right? Because news can really shape it. Underneath 90, you're looking at 85 and then 80 again, right? Back over 97 with a strong amount of volume, you'll be looking at 100 plus, right? So OKLO is one of those ones where a lot of times it really just moves off of just purely right anticipation of news. News definitely drives this thing really upward, right? News is probably one of the most important things that pushes this stock price particularly up, right? So you definitely want to pay attention to that. Boyle, same thing. Once again, let's continue to see how it plays out. There's not really much to really cover on Boyle. Let's see how it plays out. Winter is starting to get a little bit colder here, so let's see how it plays out here by February once again. All right, so OKLO, those are really just my thoughts on it, right? If you're looking to play that, this is a high risk, high reward type trade just because of the volatility that comes with particularly trading an instrument that's heavily shorted. At any point in time, stock price could get pushed up or pushed down, right? So those things go hand in hand. So, yep. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. I would stay away from that. That's just my thoughts on that. I would stay away. I would stay away from adding anymore. Whatever you have is what you have, but I would steer clear from that. Those are just my thoughts. Next stock is going to be IBM. Just wanted to cover that Boyle question. Next stock is IBM, which has earnings in 10 days, so less than 2 weeks. So IBM, want you to pull that up. IBM is one of our breakout plays for 2025. I mean, for 2026. So over 325, IBM is going to go to 350. If you notice, they're still within this bull flag pattern. So I would not be surprised to see within the first 6 months of the year if IBM can get over that 325 for us to go on a run. So this is more of a consolidation pattern that's building here. We're in this flag. So just really just wait on IBM. If we can get a break above 315, that'll push us up there to that 325 and further. Right. So IBM obviously is not a day-to-day mover. This is not a heavily traded company. So this is one we'll just probably catch a move over time. All right. So just want to make that note for you guys here on this time for this company. Right. So just my thoughts there. Yep. And that's pretty much it for the watch list for today. You have your QQQ levels, right? So that is pretty much, once again, that's pretty much it for the watch list for today. I just covered OKLO. You must have missed it. We just covered it. Yeah, we just covered OKLO. CRWG. Yeah, so we just covered it. I'll say this on OKLO, below $90 is where you could see some selling come in. Back above 100, that's where you can actually see some more. UNH currently right now is at 331. So UNH is still just trading sideways there till you get a break above 360. You're not going to see much move. Phase Energy. We're currently still, when you look at Phase, this is just a good spot to get some exposure into. It's currently at about $34 a share. The valuation makes sense. So just a little bit of time. Just over time, you'll see, in my opinion, over the next couple years. Intel continues to make 52-week highs. Just sold off on Friday, just about $1, about 2.5%. Intel, you're looking at, which has earnings 4 days from now. What I'll say about Intel, INTC, right? On Intel, you're looking at above about $51. Funny enough, Intel is not done running yet. If they can continue this momentum they had, above $51 a share, you're looking at Intel coming to about 56 to 57. So you got Intel, was actually looking pretty good here on this monthly time frame. So Intel actually looks pretty solid. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys. Everyone have a great MLK Day tomorrow. We will be tapped in a little bit in the morning, so you could catch us then. Other than that, any questions you have on the back end, reach out to me. The recording will be out a little bit later on today, so we'll make sure you're good to go. All right. So we'll make sure you are good to go for the recording. Recording will be out a little bit later on today. So appreciate everybody for their time, them showing up here today. Once again, any questions you have, reach out to me on the back end for that. So appreciate y'all, and make sure you guys read through some of those guidelines. So, yep, y'all have a blessed one.